Hi, I'm Dan with FreshPoint, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about the basics of apples with you. So the most important thing is, how do you know you're using the right apple? There's a couple things we need to look at. First thing is, are you using the right apple for the right application? Some apples are better for baking, some apples are better for eating out of hand. Next, let's look at the grade of the apple. There's 6 grades of apples. Both Washington State and the USDA recognize extra fancy and fancy. And then there's US number 1 and US Hail number 1. The fancy and extra fancy are the most common designators. The unusual part is the Washington State standard is a lot tougher and a little more expensive. So if you want the Rolls Royce of apples for your amenity plate, look for a Washington extra fancy grade. The major difference is Washington requires a more uniform, more deeply colored apple, as well as a ripeness test based on Brix levels in the fruit. They carry a premium, so if that's an issue, maybe look at the US fancy or extra fancy. The next thing we want to look at is the sizing of the apple. Apples are sized based on the number of apples per box. So the smaller number on the box means a bigger apple. Sizes range from a huge 48 count all the way down to a tiny 1/16. The differences can often be pretty substantial. These are both Red Delicious apples. This is an 88 count Red Delicious. So 88-ish apples per 40-pound bushel case. This is the same variety but in 175 count. This will be a lot cheaper per apple because it doesn't have the premium size. So if you're looking for a kid's meal replacement snack or something in a box lunch, this may be the best choice. If you want a center of the plate amenity, the larger looks better. The United States, the leading state producer is Washington. Over 200 varieties of apples are grown commercially in the United States. However, 15 varieties account for 90% of all apple sales in America. For 50 years, the Red Delicious apple was the most widely grown variety in the United States. That was taken over in 2018 by the Gala. So things are changing. When storing and handling apples, avoid dropping the case. They're very susceptible to bruising. Now, while they're still edible, they get a little bitter and it limits their shelf life. Keep them dry, wash them right before you use them. You don't want them sitting in your refrigerator or your cooler wet. That breaks them down quicker. You also want to keep them away from strongly scented items such as onions. An apple will absorb that flavor and nobody really wants an apple that tastes like an onion. You don't want to keep them near ethylene. It's not sensitive, but it will shorten the shelf life and it can make the apples a little mealier. When you're tasting an apple, you don't want it to be starchy or tannic, just a little astringency. When they pick apples, they actually let them cure. That converts the starches to sugar. So you want a crisp apple, you don't want it mealy. If you cut your apple and you notice that it has what we call a water pit or a bitter pit, that's indicative of chill damage somewhere along the way. There are many different varieties of apples. This is the Red Delicious. This is now the new kid on the block. This is the Gala. We have Golden Delicious. We have Granny Smith, which is a great baking apple. These are 2 newer members to the party. This is the Ambrosia apple. And then finally, this little one, this is the Rocket apple. This is a perfect 2 to 3 bite snack apple. These are packed in sleeves ranging anywhere from 2 to 6 per sleeve. And it's just a great alternative for a quick on-the-go and healthy snack. I'm Dan, and that's the basics of apples.